I've seen a couple of like very good reviews for this game. Most people giving it like a 7 to 8 out of 10. Some giving it a 9, some giving it like a 5. The only thing I had an issue with this game is the parkour felt so boring. If you compare it to Unity, like if they just improved and polished that type of parkour, I would have loved it. But we kind of went back to like the olden days of like parkour with like Assassin's Creed 2, that type of parkour. And I kind of did not enjoy it, man. It was kind of very boring. Thankfully, the combat, the story somewhat held out, but getting to place was annoying because I did not like the parkour. It was very boring.
And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake, and believe it or not, Ubisoft is back with another Assassin's Creed. Can you believe it? I got some things to say about this one. Just so you know, we've been playing a review copy sent to us by Ubisoft, and the footage captured here is running on PlayStation 5, and I've kept it spoiler free. So, Mirage is significant because it's a break from the trend of the last 3 main...
Which is lovely. It is so refreshing, but yes.
Assassin's Creed games. Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla shed the weight of their predecessors to become these big...
I was not, like, I don't like stealth being like a mandatory thing. I more prefer it being optional. But the way they did it in this game, fantastic. I loved it.
Sprawling 100-hour
there obviously was some issues,
RPGs.
but it was still...
Now, Mirage
still very
brings
good.
it back down to basics. You're in the Middle East, you're simply an assassin, wearing a white hood, with a few tools, the map isn't massive, and you can beat the game in a reasonable amount of time. For me,
Damn, yeah man, Valhalla. Ooh. It was like 100 hours, 120 hours, and so on, man, it was big. There was so much to do, but yet most of it was very boring.
I've been a fan of these games since day one. I loved all the original style games,
so
even
do
with
I.
their sometimes significant flaws, because
especially the first one, it did not age well.
Because there wasn't really anything else like them out there at the time. The newer games, Odyssey, Origins, Valhalla, like, I acknowledge that they are technically good, but just not what I was looking for from an Assassin's Creed game. So Mirage sounded like just what I was looking for. Now, to be frank, this game feels like the middle ground between the two Assassin's Creed styles. I don't love it, I don't hate it, but it's a...
See, if they can polish this and improve upon, like, this core, it would be good. Like, expand the world a bit more, polish the parkour and make it a bit more immersive and, a bit more flashy. Give you... I don't remember how many weapon choices there is in the game. But, I just want more of this, but a bit more polished,
step in the right direction. It feels way more in line with a classic Assassin's Creed game in terms of focus and gameplay scenarios, but with the parkour, the combat, and certain elements, it still kind of feels like the newer games. Not as precise as I'd like. Just kind of watered down a bit, It's hard to put my finger on. Maybe it's just the game.
You'll never get rid of this little part here.
Just kind of...
I've experienced this in every Assassin's Creed game. In every single one that I've played. And I've played, except for like the spin-offs like Rogue, the one with the black dude, the one with the female. Like, I've played all of the core ones, like from 1 to 2 to Brotherhood to Revelations to Black Flag to the third one to, Syndicate, Unity, Odyssey, Origins, and Valhalla. Like, in every single one, I've experienced this glitch.
It feels like the newer games.
I don't know why they can't fix it,
kind of
but
watered down.
it's always there.
It's hard to put my finger on. Maybe it's just the gameplay feel of the games it's trying to emulate. Maybe it's a bit of nostalgia, but that's just me. That's my bias up front. If you go in expecting Assassin's Creed 2 or a 4 or something like that, not quite. But if you play the newer games and are looking for a change of pace from them, and you've only played those, then this is a decent one. But what's the deal here? So in this, you play as Basim, a character significant to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but at least at the start of the game here, he's just a fresh face. A young guy yearning to be an assassin, you know, your typical Assassin's Creed protagonist. You get to experience him as a character in a standalone story, at least sort of for a minute, and you watch him progress from young street thief guy to apprentice assassin to full-on master assassin. And the story and his clothing will reflect that. And now, like I said, he is a former street thief, but he's like quick-witted and he's a bit funny and lighthearted, but also intensely, almost naively idealistic. Things get pretty rough for him after an intro, and he is conscripted into the Hidden Ones, the Assassins. And you join him to link up with them, learn, and rid Baghdad of bad guys. Of course, it gets more complicated than that. It's Assassin's Creed. But it does work because of Basim and a few distinct characters surrounding him. They seem to actually give a damn. And then there's Baghdad itself, the setting. It's a cool backdrop. One that's got a familiar feeling to Assassin's Creed, like classic, and even like the wide open deserts and rivers and farms from Egypt in Origins. But it still manages to feel distinct on its own, especially in certain districts as you get deeper into the city and see detailed palaces and markets and just like where they make clothing, where mercantile happens, where commerce happens. It's cool to see.
I feel like in every Assassin's Creed game, well, there was one or two of them, but when you kill like a dead person, well, if you kill a person and then he's now dead, the crowd just kind of like reacts and then they just like go back to doing what they were doing. Like, nobody runs away, nobody calls for the guards. I think it was Unity or was it Syndicate, where they did somewhat do that. But even then, it wasn't like really as you would expect the reaction to be. Like, if they can just make this a bit more fleshed out, I'd love it.
And the map
you see, they just go back to doing what they were doing. It's so dumb.
Big city with a little couple of surrounding outposts and some desert and some fields. It's explorable enough. It is just open world enough. This is where I think it feels a lot.
It literally just reaches the bare minimum of being considered an open world game.
More like the open worlds of old Assassin's Creed games, which weren't really always technically open, but yeah. The story is told through cutscenes that aren't always very thrilling, and some characters emote a little awkwardly here and there in cutscenes and stuff. But generally, I like the voice acting, and the language options are pretty cool. Now, the story isn't super epic or memorable, but a little bit of intrigue helps, especially if you finished Valhalla. There's a little extra depth to kind of getting to the bottom of Basim as a character. It's the characters that help it along, and really the pacing. You're always off doing the next thing, and that is typically sneaking around and taking out dudes. Mirage is centered around stealth. The stealth is simple, and the guards are still hopelessly dumb, but it still manages to be somewhat satisfying. If you're familiar with these, then you get the gist. You know, you're hiding in bushes, you're crouching and climbing around, you're whistling to trick dudes to come over to you and stab them in the face, and then you're running away, you're parkouring through the streets, trying to break line of sight.
I don't think he got the pre-order bonuses, did he here? Because you would get like the Prince of Persia like dagger. I don't think he did.
The game embraces some traditional Assassin's Creed elements too, like sitting on a bench to blend in or standing in a crowd to disappear.
It's one thing I'll never do is pre-order a game, because the bonuses that you get from it just doesn't matter anymore. Like a JRPG, yes, most of the time those pre-order bonuses does help because it's like a useful item that doubles or like gives you 50% more XP, 50% more with like job points and so on and so on. And so that is very useful, and then it's also some other items. But most of the time when it comes to like a single player game like this, it's just cosmetic shit, and honestly I can do without it. I'm never buying or I'm never pre-ordering a game unless it's like a JRPG.
Appear a bit. You can also use certain groups of people to your advantage, like in the older games. In those games, you'd spend money to get people to do your bidding, like have a couple of tough guys start a fight for you, or pay some dancing ladies to distract the guards.
Yeah, Revelations was very good with that.
It's changed up a bit. You have to hand these people a special kind of token, like kind of unspoken little thing that says in the community, hey, this guy is good, he's trying to do the right thing, help him out. So how you get these is by exploring the environment, finishing small tasks, finding hidden stuff and pickpocketing people. This special token can also be spent on like a merchant to get access to goods at a discount.
See, they didn't make this that tedious, so it's fine. But if they made this really tedious and like for like a mission, it was like a requirement, or you know that it would really change the mission completely, then it would be very tedious to do, because if you didn't have, you'd have to go and get, and then you had to go and start the mission, and then if you didn't have enough, you had to go out and get more. Like, they didn't do that. They literally made this as simple as possible. Like, I didn't experience any tedious parts to it, maybe once or twice, but I never had to go out of my way to go and get them.
Which is nice. Now, the main thing you are going to be spending money on is to refill your tools of the trade. Basm has a small tool set that you can slowly unlock by progressing through the game. It's just a handful of stuff, you know, throwing knives, a noisemaker, powdered smoke bomb thing, blow darts. These are straightforward, good assassin tools, but they can actually be upgraded at your assassin bureaus in a fun little way. You can spend collected resources to unlock 3 tiers through the course of the game, and each tier has 3 choices within, of which you can only choose one attribute. Say, like, make your throwing knives stronger, or maybe make them more poisonous. The choice is yours. And those choices are kind of good and fun, and as you unlock more of those...
It adds a bit more customization for if you don't like the one aspect of it, you can change it a bit more. If you need more damage, you can do that. If you want like more of it, I believe you can do that, you know. Just little changes like that. Nothing major.
Tiers, you can kind of tailor the tools a little bit in your own special way. You also have a focus meter that allows you to, not too far into the game, access that kind of mark and execute ability where you can target multiple enemies and then hit a button and Basm zips between them, killing them all pretty instantly. It's a bit weird, but it's something different. There's also a skill tree, which is straightforward and simple. You can spend points in one of 3 branches to unlock stuff like chain assassinations, or a stun kick, or breaking your fall, carrying capacity, all stuff that feels kind of meaningful. Nothing too just fluff or padded out filler stuff. I like a skill tree where everything you unlock feels worthwhile, and they got it here. It's a decent skill tree. You're finding weapons and costumes out there, but it's not a loot fest. Most of the time is spent actually finding resources and unlocking blueprints to just upgrade your sword or your dagger or your clothing with a couple of perks and stat upgrades. You know, you're not swapping to a new sword because you're picking up a new one every 5 minutes, and I like that.
I have to say, I kind of do as well. It's very refreshing.
The way these systems work, it's not massive, it's not overly complicated, but it works well enough. And you're using your tools and the skills you unlock for missions. Missions that, more often than not, are nicely open-ended. It typically goes like this. You roll up on a place, and then from there, it's up to you to choose how to attack. Use your bird in the sky to, like, scout out enemies and find possible secret entrances or exits, and then jump in to either steal something and get in, or kill a key figure and escape. There are usually multiple ways to do things, like draw out a key enemy by doing a side objective, if you can even find that side objective, or setting up a trap, or maybe just, you know, perfect stealthing the whole thing. It's another thing, like, it's not overly complex, and like I said, a lot of the enemies feel like dummies when you're taking them out one by one so easily, so systematically, just by standing in a bush, you know? It's kind of like how...
Yes, but that's been Assassin's Creed ever since, like, the third one, the second one, you know?
Assassin's Creed has been for a while. A lot of it does work on a notoriety system, so as you do bad things in public or in front of enemies, your notoriety builds, and that's when you're more easily recognized and pursued.
You know what I really enjoyed? The second one, I believe, and maybe the third one. It was also Revelations. From the second to Revelations, you had like a wanted poster, and that was a very good system, in my opinion, because then you couldn't, like, if your wanted level was too high, you couldn't just go running around in public. You had to go hopping on the roof, you know, do all of that to like stay out of the like streets, because you don't want to get into unnecessary fights, especially early on, because then you don't have a lot of potions, and then you have to go buy more potions or loot it, and then you don't have enough money to buy more potions, so then you kind of fucked. And so you had to go around bribing people, you had to go around ripping the posters down to lower your wanted level. That was a great system, in my opinion. I hope they bring that back. Was it a bit tedious at one point? Yes. But it is your fault for doing all of the bad things that you did to get that wanted level up. So if they bring that back in any future Assassin's Creed game, I'm going to love it because it was so good.
You always bribe a town speaker or tear down wanted posters to reduce your notoriety. Does that sound familiar? They knew what they were doing here. This is like totally.
This is a watered down version of what it was, as far as I know. So it is like it, but not as much as it was back then.
Trying to capture that old feel. Now, there are some rough control problems. It actually kind of reminds me of the old Assassin's Creed games where you'd run up the wrong thing or fall to your death by jumping the wrong way. The parkour isn't perfect. It isn't super precise. It's also not super fast either, which I don't usually mind. Some of the assassins in these games start out a bit chunkier and slower, but here it just feels slow and also...
If they did it on purpose in the beginning to make it very slow and clunky, and then as you progressed the game and become like a master assassin, and the movement increased, like a skill point that increases your movement speed or increases like unlocks new parkour mechanics, that would have been really good, because then you would have progressed as a master assassin and it would have felt like you, as you playing this character, has progressed substantially. And then as you play the game, you unlock those perks, and then you master those like combos, and then you like master the parkour perfectly, and then you feel like you yourself has become the master assassin, and I feel like that would be the perfect Assassin's Creed game.
Not exciting. Some of the other games when you were a slower assassin, it was still cool. Here, it's just a bit boring. I don't know if it's like Basim's sprint, the sense of momentum, I don't know. Maybe it's the design of the landscapes you're running on, just something about the feel of it is a bit off. The same goes for the actual hidden blade stabbings. They just don't feel right, like not super precise or satisfying to nail, and the animations sometimes feel kind of all over the place. The momentum just isn't right when you're stabbing a guy while walking. They used to have those nailed perfectly. And now the assassination things, it just doesn't feel great to stab a room full of dudes. It used to feel like such a badass. And I think this is ultimately indicative of what Assassin's Creed Mirage is. It is something that was essentially intended to be a Valhalla spin-off DLC that they decided to branch off and make it its own fully fleshed out game.
And I feel like because they tried to make it its own like fleshed out game, this is a way to see what people enjoy about Assassin's Creed games. Like, if people say they want it back to how it was in Valhalla, then from now on, they're going to more focus on that. And maybe one or two side projects that can make like a game like this, but more polished, more. Or if people enjoy this, then they're going to focus more on this type of gameplay, and then add on it as like time goes on. And if they do that, I think that would be better. But I believe the next Assassin's Creed game coming is going to be live action, and I'm very disappointed in that. That is sad.
It is still the framework of the new Assassin's Creed game, so it's still not going to feel as back to its roots as some people were hoping, myself included. Granted, that comes down to expectations and stuff, but I can only judge it as one person. I am a consumer just like you, so that's kind of where I'm really at with it though. But at the very least, I do like that there is an emphasis on the stealth, and sieging some of these big bases or castles or strongholds is pretty good. I had a good time with it, and I had a good time with like the subcontract stuff where a lot of the times it's just to go steal something and return it. I like the way those flowed. It's not like a Deus Ex or a Thief or anything like that complex, but at the very least it succeeds in that. And where it does kind of maintain that old school feel, specifically to my memory, Assassin's Creed 1, is that the combat is not great. The combat I really don't like. It's very simple. It's like a watered down version of the newer games, but you have an attack, a heavy attack, and a parry and a dodge, and it's just...
What I used to do in the first one, and especially in like second one and onwards, is that I would parry, and if you parry and then attack, you would finish the like opponent off immediately. Like, I would just sit there and I would swing my sword up and down, because if you remember the animation, you'd hold your weapon and then just like move your hand up and down, and you know what when you play like with a pencil and you like wiggle it up and down. Yeah, you'd basically do that with the sword or with the two-handed weapon, that you would just like move side to side, and then you'd parry, and then you'd press the attack button, and then you would finish the enemy off. And then once you built up like a chain of that, you could just instantaneously just attack anybody you wanted, and then they would just instantly die. Like, the combat was so, like, compared to now, boring. Back then, fun. But now, boring as hell, man. It's so dumb now.
Does not feel very good. It feels very exchangey, but like the very old games, you're kind of just waiting for somebody to swing at you, and then you parry it at the right time, and then that opens them up for a cool one-shot stabby finishing animation. I like that. That's not going to work for everybody, man. Like, I liked the combat in the first Assassin's Creed, even though it was technically bad. The killing people in one shot was cool. So here in 2023, some people are going to need stuff a little more complex. I don't know about you. It's really going to come down to how you feel. So watch some more gameplay videos of combat to kind of get an idea of it. You can tell I'm wishy-washy on everything with this game. It's just all right. Where the game does really succeed, again, is the fact that it does kind of commit to stealth, and also the culture. Showing Baghdad, showing historic Muslim culture, like all this stuff going on here, stuff that you don't see in a lot of games, so it's nice to have perspective. Because at the end of the day, even with a lot of the flaws this game has, it still has what I want from a classic Assassin's Creed game, like a historical setting that you can totally get lost in, and you're walking around in a white hood and you're stabbing people. Granted, it gets a lot more complicated than that, but if you're looking for a simple Assassin's Creed, you have it here. I am not head over heels in love with it, but I would love the series to go back in this direction. I know not everybody agrees with me. Some people really take issue with how I talk about the modern Assassin's Creed games, but hey, I'm just one person. We all have different thoughts on games. And really, this is a before you buy. You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, and now I want to hear yours down in the comments. How do you feel about the franchise? Are you one of the people who just got into the newer big action RPG games? Do you only like the old games? Are you a weirdo like me? And what are you expecting from Mirage? Let's talk about anything at all Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed Mirage down in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. But if this video helped you out, seeing the gameplay and just getting some insight, if it helps steer your decision, clicking a like button's all you got to do. It really helps us out. But if you're new, consider subscribing, maybe hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. Either way, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
In my opinion, it is a 6 at its lowest, and about a 7.5 at its highest. It is, like you said, it's a lot different from the newer Assassin's Creed games that have come out, which is nice. It's a nice breath of fresh air. It could use a lot more polish, maybe in a future update, or, in the next one that they bring out. Hopefully this signals to them to not make the live action, because I'm pretty sure it is going to flop horribly, and then we might not get another Assassin's Creed game for a couple of years afterwards. So I'm pretty, I hope and pray they're going to realize that do not make a live action. Yes, it could earn them a tad bit of money early on, but if they do it horribly, and if the game is shit, people are not going to like it, and then I'm pretty sure from then on, Assassin's Creed is going to die. And it's just going to be a sad day then. So, I do think what they did with this game, yes, it's a step in the right direction. Yes, it's not properly polished as it should be. And yeah, it's actually a pretty decent game. If you want to wait before you buy it, I'm pretty sure there's a sale going on soon, or there's going to be a sale soon. And then you can buy it then, because not everybody has the money to just instantly buy a new game. And especially if it's a game you're not going to really enjoy, because it just meets the bare necessities of an open world. Like, the world is not as big as Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla, and all of those. So be warned. It is a very short game compared to the other Assassin's Creed games as well. So if you don't think it's worth the price, now wait for a sale. That's the only thing I'm gonna say. Hope you guys enjoy, and see you guys next time.